Hello friends, and welcome to the Hanged Man in the Moon. If this is your first time here, welcome. Thank you for coming. I'm pleased to meet you. If you've been here before, thank you for returning. I'm truly honored. Friends, if you are a returning visitor, you're sure to know that this is my brand new series, my deep dive into the Egyptian Tarot by C.C. Zane and the Brotherhood of Light. So, just in case you are new here, let me give you a base outline of what I'm doing in this deep dive series. So every night I draw a daily draw card from the Egyptian Tarot. And because this is a new system for me and I want a little help, I use a deck that I'm a little bit more familiar with. In this case, the Tarot of the Holy Light by Christine Payne-Towler. I use that to help me unpack the meaning of the daily draw card for me for the next day. And then I live my day. And then I come home and I record this video to see how, and in this video, we talk about the cards that were drawn and I discuss how the meanings of those cards either revealed themselves or did not reveal themselves to me during my day. So that's the process. And before I get into today's daily draw card and the helper cards, I wanted to briefly touch on something that I tried to explain yesterday in a very clumsy fashion. And I'm so blessed to have the support and help of Christine Payne-Towler. She, in the comments, clarified what I was trying to say. And I asked her if it was okay if I were to quote her in today's video, and she gave me the thumbs up. So let me give her explanation of what I was trying to say yesterday in relationship to my creating a chart of the zodiac, the zodiac and the decans as they will interact with the small cards or the pips of a tarot deck. There's a reason why I was doing that, and I had started doing that anew and in earnest yesterday. I tried to explain it. I did not do a good job. Christine Payne-Towler does a very good job. Let me read what she wrote. She writes, "Consider it this way. The dial of astrology is unchanging, meaning the wheel of the houses, houses 1 through 12, filled with the signs of the zodiac, their decans, each zodiac has 3 decans within it, and the sub-rulers, the planets for those decans. They don't vary. That's the part you can memorize whole. Meanwhile, different tarot families parse up these standard values into the pip pack, each in their own way. So when you make your chart, let the astrology dictate the baselines, then allow the different decks to fall into the grid the way the individual creators have determined. Astrology is the root model, and then the tarot cards fill it in, especially the pip pack of the tarot deck. Fill it in. And each deck is slightly different in different ways. For example, a Venus in Virgo for the Tarot of the Holy Light could be the 8 of Discs. But in the Egyptian Tarot, it's the 9 of Swords. But it's still the same planet in the same decan, in the same zodiac sign, in the same house. Does that make sense? So that's why I'm forming the chart as a baseline layer tool for reading that I can match, especially on decks with decks that give us the zodiac sign and the planet for that zodiac sign for that particular pip card or that minor arcana card from 1 ace through 10 of the 4 suits. So that's what I was doing yesterday, and that's the reason why I'm creating the chart. And I think Christine Payne-Towler explained it beautifully. So that's what I'm doing. And it will be helpful. It will be helpful for me, especially when I later perhaps go to pick up the Apapus deck or perhaps the Atea deck. Other continental tarot decks might slightly shift the way they associate the pip cards with the decans in the zodiac, in the houses. So there we go. There you have it. Now let's get into today. So I did my draw, and let me show you the cards that were drawn for me today. Here they are. So you just saw that the daily draw card for the day was the Nine of Swords, right? And let me show you the color image and the charcoal gray and white image. Now, if you are new, maybe you don't know why I have two cards from the same, basically the same deck, one in black and white and one in color. The reason is, this is an old deck, at least an older deck. And it's very precious to me. And I want to keep it in order and keep it from being damaged. So what I'm doing is, this is a mass market deck, the color one. Mass market, easy to replace. So what I'm doing is I shuffle the color deck and I pull my daily draw card from the color deck, and then I pull my older card, the same card, from my older deck so that I can see both of them together. And sometimes the constellations are a little bit different. The artwork is a little bit different. The color card is actually a little bit easier to see, but I love both of them and I want to look at both of them together. So the Nine of Swords. You saw that the Nine of Swords in this pack is Venus, an earth sign. Don't freak out. The swords are earth signs. And you also saw Taurus right beside that. The reason why it's Taurus in Venus is that for this card, you also see down here at the very bottom, Venus, right? I'm sorry, Taurus in Virgo. Gosh, see, I've got this thing with Venus and Virgo messed up in my head from when I was a young child, I think. Venus and Virgo are mashed together as one thing in the back of my head because of something I misunderstood when I was young. And so I have I confuse the two from time often. So let me try that again. So the card here is, you saw Virgo and Taurus together. So this is, the base sign here is Virgo. So why is Taurus there? Well, Taurus is there because at the bottom you see Venus. Venus is the, so Taurus is the domicile of Venus. So basically what this is saying is that this is Venus in Virgo, the Nine of Swords. And you see there's a constellation here. And the constellations are in different places. The constellation here is up at the top in the black and white version. Can you see those? Did you see them when I gave you the close-up shot? Okay, well, let me show you that constellation up close once more. Here it is. So the name of that constellation, which is on this card, is the Corona Borealis. Why is that important? Well, the Corona Borealis is from Greek mythology, and it's a representation, or what the ancient Greeks saw when they saw the Corona Borealis up in the sky, was a wreath, a garland that Dionysus gave to Ariadne. Now, who's Ariadne? Do you remember Ariadne? Ariadne was the daughter of Midas. And Ariadne is the one who helped Theseus when Theseus had to go into the labyrinth to kill the Minotaur. Yeah, there's Ariadne's thread. Yeah, Ariadne gave Theseus a thread so that he would be able to find his way back out. And so after he killed the Minotaur and he came back out, he apparently decided to whisk Ariadne away. But it didn't last long. There are many versions of that part of the story. There are some versions that say that Dionysus said, leave her alone, go on alone. There are other versions where Theseus just got bored with her. There are different versions of the story, because eventually Theseus goes on to marry one of the most powerful sorceresses of the time, and her name is Medea. And then there's a whole problem with that, with Medea wanting revenge on Theseus, and the story continues, right? But this part of the story. So Ariadne is abandoned by Theseus for one reason or other on the Isle of Naxos. And Dionysus either fell in love with her before or sees her and falls in love with her, and they wed, they marry, and he gives her this crown, this corona. And this corona is placed up in the sky as a memorial of their union, and that is the corona borealis. So it's a marriage after a breakup, you might say. Right? And that could have something to do with a layer of meaning for this Nine of Swords. Nine of Swords, what does this mean? So the Nine of Swords is, again, this is Virgo in Venus. Venus is a mutable sign, but this is the fixed aspect of a mutable sign because, again, because this is Taurus with Venus. Yeah? Taurus is fixed, so this is the fixed aspect of Venus. All of our signs, whether they're a fixed sign, a mutable sign, or a cardinal sign, all of them have fixed, mutable, and cardinal aspects to them. So this is the fixed aspect of Virgo, which is a mutable sign. So what do we have? We have Venus coming into this area of, Virgos. My mom's a Virgo. This area of possible conflict, which is why it's really messed up that I've got Venus and Virgo associated in my head, because Venus and Virgo are not a nice match, or not an easy match. Virgo wants to have things all figured out, right? Lists, details, things have to be done perfectly or they're not good. And Venus is love and beauty, and let's join together, let's make love. And Virgo is, but it's got to be done right. Now, these could interact in different ways. Now, the title for this card, according to C.C. Zane, is Renunciation. So, why? Well, on the one side, there could be this idea of Venus's relationships, but Virgo wants perfection, yeah? Perfection in relationships could be problematic. Needing perfection in relationships can be problematic. It can cause fights. Especially if you start feeling like you know better, which a Virgo would want, often does, right? Quarrels can begin, and quarrels can lead to animosity with this Nine of Swords in this deck. So there's a need to be careful with other people, and a need to be careful of our fixed attitudes, and that can limit both our achievement. Virgo wants to achieve, and also limit our potential for a relationship. And potential arguments here can drain our energy as well. However, there's another side to this, that love can overcome arguments. And also Venus coming into this persnickety, practical, do it right, do it perfectly thing can uplift that attitude to the beauty of perfection, the beauty of doing something correctly, the beauty of enjoying the details and the list making of our daily work. Does that make sense? Though there can be that side to it too. So this was supposedly my primary energy of the day. And remember, there's that idea of a breakup leading to perhaps something, a relationship that could be something new from that Corona Borealis bit, which is interesting, but not necessarily the main point, I don't think. So I did a 3-card draw. I told you, yeah, 3 cards: energy, challenge, not obstacle, challenge, and advice. So let me show you those 3 cards right now. I love this deck. You saw in a row from left to right was the King of Swords. Da, 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 da. Then we had the Three of Discs, which showed up in the first day of this deep dive. And then we had the Moon in reverse. This is the Knight of Swords right here. And the Knight of Swords in this deck is Gemini, which is the domicile of who? Mercury, right? And this is a mutable sign. And we're going to see some mutability moving through, well, okay, no. Yes and no. We had the mutable sign of Virgo, right? We've got another mutable sign here in Gemini. And we're going to have another mutable sign, we're going to have another mutable aspect of a cardinal sign in just a little bit. So there's this mutability is weaving its way through today's grouping of cards, which may mean that it's time for me to move on in a sense, yeah, and clean up and get ready to move on. So domicile of Mercury, the androgynous one, right? The communicator, the quick one, the messenger. So what does that mean for Gemini in Swords? Yeah, we've got the idea of paradox. Gemini is paradox. Mercury is paradox. Mercury can be playful as well. But it's in the sword suit of, in this deck, swords are air. Don't worry. So paradox of the armed and dangerous knight can also be a witty humorist. Can also be a little bit funny. Can also be a little bit of a joker. In a clever way, not in a buffoon kind of way, I don't think, although I wouldn't exclude that when it comes to me. But yeah, a clever way of being funny, which is what Mercury also has as one of his, her, their talents. And his, her, their works perfectly for Mercury because Mercury is androgynous, right? So this energy of the Knight of Swords enters into the reading at the beginning as the general energy of the day, coming from the Nine of Swords, which is an Earth suit, an Earth's card in this system. And remember, we don't want these two to be in conflict. This air sword and this earth sword, they're not fighting. They don't need to fight. We're doing the alchemy of seeing what happens when they interact. So we've got this beauty and the possibility of arguments. Now, arguments could be possible here with the Knight of Swords, right? But that could be softened and eased with a little bit of humor. We can get around it with a sense of humor. Now, the Knight of Swords has a restless mind, but it's curious. The Geminis are restless, right? More interested in the game than in the outcome. So as long as we don't get into the who's going to win and being uncareful, we play the game gently with Venus in the background here. Things don't have to get harsh and nasty. Yeah? Plastic imagination is something else here. Yeah, the Geminis are able to imagine. The air of Gemini is able to project forward into the future and imagine possibilities. And while there is the plasticity of expansion and the mutability of this sign, there's also the possibility of losing focus. Now, it's not, some of us have imaginations that are like lasers, yeah? I imagine this and I can draw this, my imagined image out with laser sharp precision. That's not Gemini. That's not Mercury and Gemini. This imagination can be a little bit flighty, can dart off like a hummingbird in any direction. So, imagination, good, but might ask for a little bit of restraint, right? which is interesting because when we talking about restraint, because the next card was the Three of Discs, an Earth card, right? Mercury again, but Mercury is here in Capricorn. And this Mercury being in Capricorn, a cardinal sign, I'm sorry, a mutable sign in a card. Okay, let me start this again. So the Three of Discs is the mutable aspect of the cardinal sign of Capricorn. Capricorn is a cardinal sign, but we've got the mutability in the threes for this in this card. So that's interesting. Why is it interesting? It's interesting because this Three of Discs is a little bit of an idyllic card. Yeah, we've got these two figures here, the male and the female, joined by the eagle of the emperor. Yeah, this is a card of self-mastery, of achieving a masterwork. Now, Capricorns want to get to the top, right? They work to get to the top, and Mercury energizes that. Energizes it, and makes it perhaps a little less forceful, a little less, softens the directness of the cardinalness of Capricorn. Now, it's like an internal balancing act with this bright shining star as a goal. So rather than perhaps the Three of Discs from a Waite-Smith deck where we've got the three people working together on one project, three different people, a group, a teamwork. This is an internal collaboration, working toward a masterwork, which is the challenge in this three-card spread. Now, this is not the obstacle kind of challenge. I think this is the challenge of something to reach for and something to try to attain for today. That masterwork idea. And so the advice here was the moon, but in reverse. And I love this moon card. And let me show it to you right side up. I haven't copied images of the cards here for me to refer to when I hold this card up for you. So I'm going from memory. We got the two dogs, we got the two towers, we got the moon up in the sky, we've got the crustacean coming up from below. It's all there. Very similar to a Tarot de Marseille card or even a Waite-Smith card. The two dogs are more clearly fighting in this rendition of the card though, right? They're not just baying at the moon, and one is clearly a wolfish wild dog, and one is more clearly a domesticated dog. They look like they're in conflict. And the moon is the domicile of Saturn, right? A very harsh card. And this is Aquarius. I'm sorry, I forgot to mention that this is Aquarius in this deck. So Aquarius is fixed. We've got Saturn in this fixed sign, so we've got some harshness there. We've got some boundary. Okay, these are the boundaries. This is what's going to happen. We're going to cut off the unnecessary, and we're going to make a strong statement of what should be. Maybe that's one way of thinking about it. However, the moon itself is here, and the moon, what is the moon? The moon is the one who parses out the stellar energies that it receives from both our sun and from the rest of the universe. The moon receives all that stellar energy and it parses it back out to us in manageable quantities. Yeah, it gives us the reflected energy of both the sun and the stars in manageable doses. so that we're not overwhelmed. And there are times when there's a lot coming back to us, and there are times when there's very little to none coming back to us because the moon goes through its phases, right? So the moon digests and gently reflects the raw stellar energy, portioning it out to us, which is great. However, remember, this card was reversed. So in the reversed position, that light is not clear. It's hidden. It's on the other side of the earth, perhaps. So one of the ways to read this card in reverse is that sense of chaos, when you've lost your guiding light, when you feel like you're lost in the illusion of the material realm without your spiritual guiding star there, clear and visible to follow. Because this material plane without our spirit, our clear sense of spiritual connection can feel like a jungle, right? And many humans experience this physical plane as a jungle, as a competitive jungle of dog eat dog, right? So when we've lost that glittering divine which can guide us, when we've lost sight of that, we can get lost, we can get scared. And so in reverse, could be a call to grow up. And I'm not, grow up, to mature, and realize that discover that we are the light guiding our way, rather than looking for that light out in the environment. It's time to grow up and realize that we are our own North Star. That is the advice, I think, for me for this day with these cards. So again, what did we have? We had these nines, which could be the beauty of doing the work and doing it right, but it could also be the relationships that are challenged by needing them to be perfect. So the advice was, be clever, do the Knight of Swords, but temper it with a little bit of humor. Yeah, enjoy the game, but don't try to be a winner. And now this is some side note, an interest. Well, is it time for side notes? Let me get through this again. Okay, so there's this, and then the challenge is to do the master work for me for today. Now to bring aspects of self together, embody my eagle, my internal eagle of the Emperor, Empress, and move in the direction of the masterwork. And grow up and try to realize that I am the light that I want to follow in the world. And not get lost in what I see out there, which is illusion. And really it is an illusion. Everything we see out in the physical realm is, in essence, an illusion of our perception. So that's a good thing to remember and realize. So what happened today? Now, first thing I wanted to mention is that, okay, first thing, student contacted me about their grades today. This is the time when students check their grades, and that's fine. This particular student was unhappy with their grade, which is fine. But the way that, and there's a female student, the way that she asked about her grades was a little bit, well, I did all this work, and so why is my grade like this? Was a little bit, for want of a better word right now, a little bit pissy. And so then I remembered, okay, so careful of relationships. I want to be very gentle in my response to this. We're playing the game. And so I gave a very clear response, but not a harsh one. I didn't say that because you're not a good student or any of that. I was a little bit tempted to react to her pissiness, but I decided, no, I'm going to set that aside and just very gently say, well, yes, those things you did very well. There are a couple of things you did not as well. And other people in the class did those things better. And I'm limited in the number of these kinds of grades that I can give. And unfortunately, other students got the points for those. You know what I'm saying? And then I wished her a happy new year and hoped that her winter vacation went well. I thought I did a pretty good job of that. And so then later in the day, I decided I was going to record a new spreads video. I got a spread from one of the reference books that I'm using for this series called How to Read Tarot by... and I keep forgetting the name of the woman. The man's name is Keys. Her name starts with a D. Anyways, I'll put the name down there right here. It's a beautiful, good, very useful book. And so, what am I saying? Yes. Okay. So I did a video of that spread. It's a very useful spread. If you want to check it out, it's on my playlist. Yeah, my spreads playlist. This Magic 7 spread. It's a really interesting one. Go check it out. Maybe I'll put a card up here. So, yes. So I talked through the first example spread that I had done a couple of weeks ago when I was first testing out the spread to see if I wanted to use it for my series. And I liked it. And I had used the question of what can I do to make this deep dive go smoothly? And that was a really interesting reading. And the sun was at the center of that reading, so it made me all happy. So I wanted to show that reading as the first example of the spread. The second example of the spread, I did a live reading right there on camera, and it was really fun. It was really funny. The spread goes, first card 1 is the past, card 2 is the present, card 3 is the future, and then there are 4 more cards. The first card, and for what I do for that spread was I laid them all out face down, and then I turned them over one by one after I laid out the whole spread. The first card was the Knight of Wands for the past, which was cool. I thought, yeah, sure. I entered into this with a passionate vigor of following my inspiration, and I'm going full throttle as I entered this deep dive. The card for the present was the Knight of Pentacles. So I said, yes, okay, so present, I'm doing my daily work. That makes absolute sense. I'm doing a daily video. I'm keeping to my schedule. I'm going through it step by step. Makes absolute sense. So first card, a Knight of Wands. Second card, Knight of Pentacles. Third card was, guess what? It was the Knight of Swords. I didn't lose it on camera, but after I finished up the video, I just laughed to myself because, yeah, Knight of Swords, that's my future. And that was the general atmosphere, the general theme for this card for me for today. So that was fun. So, but now, like I said, I was doing that video, right? I did my intro part, and then I went and I turned the camera down and I started the video, and I was feeling awkward. I was feeling like I had lost my North Star. Interesting. That didn't really click until after the whole filming process was over, but the words weren't coming out smoothly. I was talking in this direction and that direction and another direction, kind of like my video from yesterday, but in a more drastic sense. And I was feeling really awkward, and I had been going for quite a while. And then I thought in the back of my head, I was thinking, should I just stop this? And then I noticed I had not plugged in the microphone for the camera. which meant that the sound for the video was going to be just poo-poo. And so then I realized, okay, no, I've got to stop and I've got to start this all over again. I lost about 20 minutes, but I wanted to do I wanted to be right. I wanted it to be right. The beauty of getting it right. I wanted it to be the masterwork. I wanted it to be good for both me and for the people watching it. So there was that. So yes, advice. So I found the light within myself again as I restarted the video, and the second recording of that video, I think, went much better. So that was interesting. But then I was thinking, so I didn't have any actual interactions with people throughout the day. So all of that stuff about relationships and arguments leading to enmity and all that, maybe this card really isn't speaking to me that much today. And then at the end of the day, as I was coming home, I started chatting with somebody online. Somebody who apparently has an interest in me. And it's interesting that it seems like this is the second time I've done a deep dive. And when I do these deep dives, suddenly people start getting interested in me. Not only people watching the videos, but just people in the world around me start getting interested in me in various ways. And so that was interesting in and of itself. But as we chatted, I realized that this person was probably not the kind of person not a bad person, not a mean person, this person sounded like they wanted different things from an interaction from me than what I would want from an interaction with them. Within the same universe, but different. Yeah, I'm into monogamy. The other person did not seem like they were. Just saying. And so I was starting to react to that. And then I realized, aha, this is where it is. This is what I'm seeing as an imperfect relationship, as not following my outline of what a relationship should look like in the physical world. And my reaction to it, my knee-jerk reaction to it. And I want to stop, before you start cutting things off, heads or genitalia, before you start cutting things off in the virtual space, calm down and try to enjoy the game. And so I think I did that. I think I was able to do that. And then eventually I said, I'm busy. Let's talk about this more tomorrow. Let's chat if you're still interested in chatting. I'm not really sure you'd really be interested in me, but let's chat. And that person seemed okay with that. So maybe I did avoid the pitfalls of this for today. The pitfalls of what C.C. Zane notes in his book for the 9 of Swords for today. That's a good thing, right? So what do you think? Does this make sense? Is this helping to unpack some stuff? It's very interesting that swords in this deck are Earth. The planets, I'm sorry, not the planets, the zodiacal signs and the decans associated with the swords are Earth. The book talks about this as all being Earth. And yet, in the description of Earth, Zane uses a lot of what I would consider to be air language. Arguments, which I would usually think of as an air problem, rather than the work and the details and that kind of stuff of Virgo. Now, Virgos think. I know, my mother's a Virgo. She thinks a lot. She thinks too much, in my opinion. So I'm not rejecting. I'm not disturbed by it, but I'm still trying to feel my way through. And as I'm feeling my way through, I'm going to try to the best of my ability, keep my anchor of the zodiac, the planet, and the constellation when possible. So, like I said, the constellation here is the corona of a broken relationship and a new one. Well, maybe this person I'm talking to may be a new relationship, and I've had a break in the past, so maybe there's that too. We'll see. So, friends, I'd love to hear what you think. Let me know in the comments below. Does any of this make sense to you? Are you getting something from it? I'd love to hear from you. If you are still here, make sure to hit that thumbs up button so that YouTube knows that you got something out of it, and it will draw more eyes to the channel, and maybe other people would get something out of this series, this deep dive as well. And subscribe if you haven't subscribed, and hit the alarm bell so you know when the videos are uploaded. I'm promising as best as a human being can promise that I'm going to be doing one a day until the new moon in February arrives. Okay? So, friends, there you go. If you want a private reading from me, my email address is below. Shoot me an email saying you want a reading, and we can work it out. Oh, and also, if you're interested in this deck that I'm using, or the deck by Christine Payne-Towler, the mass market deck, the color version of the Egyptian Tarot is on Amazon. I'll have a link to that below. The Christine Payne-Towler's site, where she sells her Tarot of the Holy Light, I'll have a link to that below. Check them out. Purchase them. They're great decks to learn a different way of approaching tarot. I think they're wonderful tools and wonderful art. And there we go. So, friends, now, as always, I wish you love, joy, well-being, and pure awareness. Thank you.